Now, I truly believe that the holy grail for any landscape photographer on YouTube is to take you, the audience, into the field, solve some problems, and take some new and original photos. Now, sometimes when I'm out in the field taking photos, I don't always get to make an entire video. I have so many small snippets where I caught a really great photo, but it wouldn't make for a great video. So here I want to share you all the stuff that you did not see, where I photographed 4 different locations where I came away with some really great photos, in my humble opinion, but they collectively don't really make a whole lot of sense. But I will, of course, take you through the photos so you can learn something from them. And we'll start back in the late summer of 2023, where I got many mornings with beautiful morning fog. So I am in the deer garden just north of Copenhagen. I've come to an area that I have only scouted once, and I'm not really sure I benefited from that scout. I knew about the location, so yes, I benefited from it. However, the composition I found here works so well today. At least I think. It's quite a complex one, but I really like it. So I'm photographing into this area, and you can see I have like nice fog, beautiful, and then there's like 2 quite big old trees. Then I have some debris here in front. And if I zoom in, I can get a composition that looks something like this here. So I've tried to put all this foreground debris in a place in the scene where it kind of makes sense. I tried to have this branch down here in the corner, but I couldn't. So luckily I have this branch here in the background that works. I've also offset the 2 trees a little bit, so I have a little bit more space here, which is counterbalanced here by this big chunk of fallen off branch, I think it is. So it is quite a complex composition, but I gotta admit, I think it works. I think it actually works. And this is where I'm really trying to take all these chaotic elements and put them together in like something that looks like a cohesive photo. It is basically just like, lines and depth that you put together. And if you want to learn more about lines and depth and separation, all those compositional tools, be sure to get my 2 ebooks. They are easy to read with minimal text. They have plenty of examples as for you to get to the point fast. And there are, of course, links to both of them down in the description of the video. So as you can see, I also captured this other photo this morning. I didn't get to film it or talk too much about it, but I really like how those 2 branches kind of twirl around themselves and they frame the fog and the background and this mysterious forest. Optimally, of course, it would have been cool if I had like a bird flying in there in the circle, but like you can't get everything. I still like the photo though. In this next sequence, we turn the time back all the way to early May of 2022. So I moved a little bit closer to the lake because there's this awesome lone dead tree right out here. And obviously you can see I can get the reflection. There's some ripples out there and I'm not too happy about them because obviously it would be nice to get a completely clean reflection. But let's see if it's possible to do something about that in Photoshop. The only one thing that I'm not too happy about with this shot here is that you can actually quite well see the background. You can see over on the other side of the lake, you have this line, which will of course end up going straight through the photo. As you can also see, I'm introducing a little bit of foreground, simply just to break that reflection and not make the reflection too clean, because that can also be a little bit boring. I'm using the dark clouds there in the background I do not think that the sun is going to light up. Maybe some of the higher clouds, but not the lower clouds, that's for sure. But yeah, generally, I really think I like this photo. The greens there on the bottom. And then I don't think I'm going to use too many of those sunset colors. I'll just keep it moody, keep it still, keep it beautiful. Beautiful, calm evening. So I've had almost 2 years to get used to these two photos because I actually processed them already back then. And I found that of these two photos, even though the right photo is the more simple photo, I prefer the left photo simply just because I bring in that foreground. So it is a little bit more grounded and you have a little bit more context. So for this next sequence, we jump all the way forward to January 2024, where I photographed the same location, but in winter conditions and from the air. I really like how these minimalist photos turned out, but as I had already just made a minimalist video and I recorded this afterwards, I kind of felt that it didn't really fit in anywhere in the videos that I made. However, I do think that this photo here works really well with these two other photos that I captured in last week's video. For the last sequence, we are turning back time just ever so slightly to the start of November 2023. So it is morning and a good one of them indeed. So I and my sister are on our way back home from Slovenia, and we have a little stop here in southern Germany on the way back home. Learned about this beautiful little town where there's both a church and what I think is a cloister. And cloister, that would be like a monastery in English. So there is like some church spires out here, and as you can see, the conditions are stunningly beautiful. So sunrise coming up, hitting the clouds here, and we have some morning mist in the town right there. Now, the thing about the clouds right now, they are moving into the scene, which is good, but I'm using the long lens. I'm zooming all the way into like 300 millimeter, and as you can see, my composition is quite tight. The point of this composition is to have the morning mist, and you can see all the houses here in front underneath the monastery right there, and it just looks so good. So I was also here yesterday photographing sunset and through the blue hour. There was no sunset, but the blue hour photos actually were quite interesting, I would say, because it started to get like light between the houses in the foreground. But I'm not sure it has the same depth and interest as the photos I'm getting right now that I really like. I'll just stay here and shoot through the sunrise and see what happens. Now, one thing that's funny when you're standing at a sunrise or sunset for that matter, and you're observing the weather, you're observing the clouds, and you actually have insanely beautiful clouds right now, burning red colors, but the clouds are moving into the scene. And if they're moving much faster, they're going to snuff out the sun once the sun is actually coming up, which is in about 15 minutes or so. And I really don't want that to happen. I actually do want the sun to come up and hopefully light up the mist in the foreground. But here's a photo from about now. So exactly what I feared would happen is happening, that the sun is coming up through its beautiful light into the scene. It was really sharp, but the clouds that were lit in the beautiful colors just before is now snuffing out the sun. I'm crossing my fingers that the small gap above those clouds and between those clouds and the clouds up here that are now filling up the entire sky will be enough for the sun to just break through and light up the moisture in the air whenever it comes out. If it does, then here's a photo. So these last photos were a little bit harder to edit simply just because it required some stacking and bracketing and made sure that I balanced the luminosity values of the photos properly. And if you want to learn how I edit my photos, be sure to enroll in my big Photoshop for landscape photographers post-processing course. It is in this course where I share all my editing techniques, everything from actually learning the programs through the more basic adjustments of the photos to the more advanced techniques such as focus stacking, luminosity masking, properly cleaning your photos, dodging and burning, using and or adding atmosphere, and how to avoid many of the different editing mistakes that you can end up doing. There is a coupon code with a link down in the description of the video if you want to save a little bit of money. So I was actually really lucky to have these beautiful conditions when I came by on this day on our way home in this beautiful little town in southern Germany. I really like how the photos turned out, but I am having a little bit of a hard time deciding which one I like the most. I do think I prefer the last photo I captured this morning, where the fog had almost risen and you only get a little bit of atmosphere that the sun hits. Let me know down in the comments which one of these 3 photos you like the most. I hope you enjoyed this video, even though it was a little bit all over the place. As always, I'd highly appreciate a comment and a like. See you next time.